Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo is in the works for UFC 287. Nick Diaz starts his acting career. Khaos Williams returns, and GM3 has found himself another middleweight hype train to potentially derail. I'm going to break down all of this and more on today's MMA news reaction video, starting with Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. It's in the works for UFC 287. I'm not sure if it's going to be main eventing or not. I imagine if the only other option of a title fight to put on that card is going to be Nunes versus Aldana, maybe this will be the main event, so that's a very big spotlight for these two. It's in Brooklyn, so Aljo is going to be fighting in New York finally. He's had a couple of opportunities earlier in his career, but he's had to pull out of those fights for different reasons, and this is a big one. This is big news, and it also gives us an idea of what else is going to be happening in the rest of the bantamweight division, especially when it comes to Sean O'Malley, because, of course, we were having a conversation just a couple of weeks ago or a month ago where we were saying things like, you know, Aljo's injured, it's not looking like he's going to be back in time, maybe they're going to do Sean O'Malley versus Henry Cejudo in the meantime, but in all honesty, I feel like this might be better for the bantamweight division in terms of keeping things flowing and keeping some kind of natural order and structure in that division. Because if you do this, you can do Sean O'Malley versus the winner of Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen, which is arguably what should be done. You know what I mean? So I like this matchup. I think it's a good fight. I think I'm looking forward to it. I know it's going to be like a bit of back and forth trash talking at the press conference. I am going to go with Aljamain Sterling in this matchup, though. I'm going to go with Aljo in this matchup. I really am. I think he can get this one done. Henry Cejudo's good, but he's been out for so long and he's so small, and a lot of people talk about Henry Cejudo's grappling, but he don't really seem to out-grapple too many people. I know he was able to hold down Demetrius Johnson in certain moments and do nothing on top of him and nothing with his grappling. And obviously Demetrius Johnson was eventually able to get back up. But I feel like there's a difference between wrestling and scrambling with each other when there's an opportunity to get a body triangle on the back. You know what I mean? I think Aljamain Sterling is going to be able to find that body triangle on Henry Cejudo and also be able to sort of keep that control in a couple of the rounds. And I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling by decision. Henry's been out for a while. He's getting older. I know he doesn't look that way because he's like 5'2", but he actually is reaching his mid-30s at this point. I know Aljo's obviously recovering from a bicep injury, but if this is the date they're coming back, I'm imagining he's going to be healthy by then, and he knows he's going to be in peak condition. And I think Aljo's got the edge here. I really do. He's got a massive reach advantage over Henry. I think he'll be able to play the range game with him on the feet. I don't think he has to worry about Henry Cejudo's offensive grappling, and I think he will find the back on many occasions in this fight against Henry Cejudo, and I think that's going to be the difference. I really do, but I really like what this means for the rest of the bantamweight division. It probably means they're going to do Sean O'Malley versus the winner of Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen, which is what should be done, because if Marlon Vera beats Corey Sandhagen and they still are doing Sean O'Malley fighting for the belt in the bantamweight division, that's just unfair, because arguably Marlon Vera, if he beats Sandhagen, should be ranked number 1 above Sean O'Malley. He beat him before in the past, and that would be really, really giving a really unfair treatment to O'Malley compared to the rest of the bantamweight contenders. So now we can do the winner of Vera, Sandhagen versus O'Malley. Hopefully, I don't think this is going to happen because I'm picking Sandhagen to beat Marlon Vera right now. I might switch my opinion, but as of right now, I'm leaning towards Sandhagen in that matchup. If Vera does win, though, that's a massive, massive fight. Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera, and timing-wise, because that Vera fight is happening in February, he might be looking to come back in June. And that means you can do the McGregor card with Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera 2, in the co-main event. And that's going to really, if O'Malley can win that one, that's going to make O'Malley get that spotlight to skyrocket his popularity. Because I don't think he's that star that a lot of people are saying that he is just yet, but he's on the cusp. And of course, if he can get a belt as well, that will massively help his stardom as well. So I'm looking forward to this fight. If it does end up happening, of course, we'll see if it gets made official. But it's targeted MMA fighting. It seems like that's what they're going to be going for. So we'll see how it goes. I think Aljo should be a pretty big favourite, maybe 2-1. Yeah, I don't see Cejudo winning this one, in all honesty. We move on to another bit of news, which is Nick Diaz beginning his acting career with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which probably means It's going straight to DVD. Yeah, someone put that in the comments. Straight to DVD, indeed. If it's one of these old time, like Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, it might as well just say Steven Seagal movie at this point. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you can only get this movie off that weird looking guy outside a kebab shop in the middle of the night with weird discs of films that are in like plastic sheets and stuff like that. And, oh, you know, I'll give you 2 for £1. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is going to be one of those types of movies. I don't know how much acting Nick Diaz is going to be doing in this film. Someone says Nick Diaz's line is going to be, yeah, you know, must be darkness of man and shit. Whatever, you know. You know what I mean? Maybe. It's called Darkness of Man. I don't know what Nick Diaz is going to be doing in this film. Maybe they should just have him sort of go, at a joke that one of the actors say. Maybe he's just going to be like a non-speaking role and be like a bodyguard for someone in the background and just be sort of like doing like the Diaz flex that they do and clicking his knuckles maybe. I'm not sure, but I doubt they're really big. I doubt they're going to be giving him too many like emotional monologues to do in the middle of this film. But that's good for Nick Diaz, you know, getting some money, getting his foot in the acting industry, I guess, which is very, very good and good to hear because, of course, he got wronged out of so much money in his career by being sort of outcasted by the UFC. So it's good to see that there's some other opportunities for him in the acting world. Maybe next he can be in a Steven Seagal movie. Who knows? Only up from here. We move on to something else, which was more fights that have been announced, which is Khaos Williams versus Rolando Bedoya, which is very, very interesting because I thought Khaos Williams was kind of above fighting people that are just making their debut in the UFC. But, you know, Rolando Bedoya, 14-1, fighting out of Peru. He's a prospect, you know what I mean? He hasn't really beaten too many guys that are too great or, like, been on the Contender Series, and we haven't really heard from him yet. But he's a prospect, and he's having a bunch of fights cancelled. So I imagine that the UFC are just like, listen, you keep having fights cancelled. He was supposed to fight in May, but that one got cancelled, and now he's fighting in the UFC instead. I feel like it's just like they can't find matchups for this guy. I mean, if you look at his recent history in his career, he won a fight in 2018, and then 2019 May, fight got cancelled. End of May, he was supposed to fight Daniel Zellhuber. They brought Daniel Zellhuber out of that fight and put him on the Contender Series. So even sometimes the UFC is ruining this guy's matchups. So I feel like they're just sort of doing him a favor and saying, okay, we've ruined a few of your matchups. He was even supposed to fight in February 2021. That one fell through. May 2021. That one fell through. A bunch of fights fell through in July of 2021, and he had to take on a short notice opponent. Like, he's having problems finding matchups. The UFC's brought him into the UFC. He's good. He's good. He's alright. He's beat a few good guys. His last opponent was 10-1. He beat him with a dash choke in the second round. That guy was a bit of a can crusher though, but you know, that's how it is in certain areas. Like, he's from Peru. You're not really going to have that really in-depth amount of talent to be fighting on a regular basis unless you're flying to other countries, which, of course, not everyone can afford when they're starting out their MMA career. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do, but I imagine this is going to be a Khaos Williams first-round KO, brutal finish. I'm just glad we're seeing Khaos Williams again, though. I thought he was going to be taking on, like, a Tim Means or maybe someone like that, a Nico Price, a name in the UFC, but he's getting a guy making their debut. I reckon he will find the KO on this guy. Good to see him again, though, because I was hearing that Khaos Williams was starting like a, I mean, what was it? Like a real estate career? Like he was setting up a real estate business and stuff, and it was kind of like unfortunate to see because you were like, maybe he's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and he's already starting to set up his plan outside of fighting now that he's lost twice in the UFC, but it's good to see him back again. I like watching Khaos Williams fight. There's a vibe before a Khaos Williams fight, like an Ngannou fight vibe, but obviously at a smaller scale at welterweight where you're just like, oh god, we could witness a murder here. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Khaos Williams back in the mix. Not against the best of opponents, but it's always good to see him back in the mix. There's also some other news, which is the monster himself, GM3 is back. Okay, they've moved the Abbas Magomedov fight, and now Abbas Magomedov is apparently fighting Calbaralho. So they're going to be doing Gerald Meerschaert versus Joseph Pyfer. Joe Pyfer, the guy from the Contender Series, Body Bags, Joe Pyfer. Now, if I didn't see Joe Pyfer completely ragdoll Eric Anders at Fury Pro Grappling just a few weeks ago, where Namajunas lost to Gillian Robertson, he was on that card. He completely manhandled Eric Anders for the entire contest and showed amazing grappling skill. Maybe I would believe in him way less, but man, it just seems like another one of those contenders that's going to get the GM free treatment, and maybe it's a little bit too much of a step up too soon, man. Little bit of a step up too soon. You know, Chimaev beating Meerschaert in hindsight was a really, really good move for him. And this is going to be on a good card, on that UFC 287 card. They're starting to pre-stack that pay-per-view with some interesting names and make sure that it's as good as some of the ones in March, because you don't want to have an amazing March sequence of cards and then all of a sudden it's April and you've got a Nunes main event of a pay-per-view. That would be a disaster. So they're trying to get some fights made for that, of course. And this is one of them. But who do you go with here? It's worrying. If GM3 is an underdog or evens, I might take him in this fight, in all honesty, because this is like a 50-50. Who gets their game off? If GM3 can get going, and he looks like a peak on-form GM3, the legend killer, the prospect destroyer GM3, we might be looking at another third-round submission from the legend GM3 himself. But I don't know. It's interesting. I'll have to see closer to the time, watch a few more of Joe Pyfer's fights before I give a educated opinion on that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Joe Pyfer does have good grappling though, so I do believe in him a bit. And how old is GM3 now? I have to look that up real quick just to make sure. See if he's getting up there in age. Maybe that'll change my opinion just a little bit. I thought he was going to lose to Abbas Magomedov, but you never know with GM3. Maybe he pulls it out the bag. But he did lose to Jotko. And Jotko has that base level of grappling awareness that maybe a Bruno Silva, who's a kickboxer, doesn't quite have. I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer off of like an early vibe. But that GM3 underdog pick might just tempt me, in all honesty. And the Abbas Magomedov fight has been cancelled, which is very interesting. So I guess even Abbas didn't want that smoke. You know, from the legendary GM3, even Abbas Magomedov is running scared from this man. 35 years of age, got a full year of being 35, so he's still somewhat near that prime area. But I will lean towards Joe Pyfer after seeing that grappling match with Anders. I really will. Tough times, though, and interesting news that's been coming out recently. So, bit of a slow news day, but I wanted to react to some of the major things and also add these other ones in at the end. We've also got Priscilla Cachoeira versus Karine Silva, April 22nd. Aaron Phillips, Gaston Bolanos, no one cares. Jocelyn Edwards, Lucy Pudilova, no one cares. And Jasmine Jasudavicius is fighting Gabriela Fernandez, apparently. Wow. Shocking news. Absolutely crazy. See you later. Thank you for watching. That's all the news of the day. And we'll see if any other big stories come out. I'm just going to check in case there's an update with news, though, because you never know sometimes. There was also a video come out of Shavkat and Usman training together for the Leon Edwards fight, which was pretty interesting to see. But that's it for news. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.